Hi everyone, my name is Blair Robinson and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we're talking about how I defeat fear, and my goal is to share this with you, share my testimony with you, and hopefully it'll be a tool for you when it comes to defeating fear. So as we know, fear hinders purpose. Fear hinders us from taking certain risks that maybe we should take that's going to actually propel and help us excel in our lives. And when we meet this fear, we feel this fear, my recommendation or how I have defeated it is by facing it, ignoring it, and just putting God above it and just plowing through it. So it's interesting, when I was thinking about the next video or the next topic to share with you guys, I actually ran into a verse in Jeremiah. It's Jeremiah 1:17 through 18. And it's interesting because this is a very moment where God is saying, okay, I've formed you in the womb. I know your purpose. You're going to start seeing things. I'm going to give you these visions. And, Jeremiah is really young. And there's a point where God is pretty much saying, don't be intimidated by anyone, or else I will make you submit to these people that you're intimidated by. And he says, do not be intimidated by them, or I will cause you to cower before them. So I say that, and I open my story with that, because that's the way I've always felt before I've even read that verse. I always put God on one side of the scale, and I always put my fear on the other side of the scale and said, okay, what weighs more? God should always have more weight in this. So if this is something that God is asking me to do, then I need to just go through it and ignore that fear and keep moving. And I tell you right now, you're going to be faced with so much opposition when you decide to do certain things, especially if God is calling you to do something specific and you know in your heart that you need to do it. The opposition is going to come, but you just have to plow through it. So I have so many examples in my life, but I'm going to do two for the sake of time in this video. One is when I decided to become a flight attendant. I was scared to fly, and I mean hold the side of your seats. Oh my gosh, it's turbulence. I'm gonna die right now. I was afraid to fly. But I was in real estate sales at the moment, and I really just wanted to do a job where I got to travel and I got to help people. And it dawned on me, why don't you apply to become a flight attendant? So I started that process. I didn't get I failed two different airlines. I applied for Republic and then US Airways, and finally I got to American Airlines. And it's funny, when I was doing my research, going to these auditions, no, it felt like an audition. If you've ever applied to be a flight attendant, it kind of feels like a very strenuous audition. But before I even started that process, I went to orientations. And the only orientation I went to for American Airlines was for Chinese speakers. So immediately I had doubt in my head, don't go to that. It's just going to be Chinese speakers only. You're going to walk in there, you don't speak Chinese, all you speak is English. You barely speak any good Spanish, and you're from New York. But no, I ignored it. Something said just show up, and I showed up. Yes, I was the only black girl in there. Everybody in there was native Chinese speakers, except for a couple of the flight attendants who was hosting. So of course they saw me there, and I was able to make a connection with someone who was very helpful throughout my process, and she put my name in the hat. So she pretty much bumped me forward. I think that year it was something crazy like 30,000 applicants, and only 5,000 were accepted to go into training. So I was one of the 5,000. So I'm in training. I went through this whole rigorous process, and our new student orientation happens, and they're saying who loves to fly, and everybody raises their hands, and I raise my hand, but I'm lying through my teeth because I am still afraid to fly. I am a flight attendant in training and I'm still afraid to fly. But the way I saw it is that God opened so many doors for me through this process, I was not gonna stop. I said, you know what? I'm gonna fake it till I make it. I'm gonna fake it till I make it. So I faked it till the trainee flight. And the trainee flight comes, I got my little badge on, and it was in DC, and we had all this turbulence, and it's my first time flying backwards because the jump seats are always facing, I have to fly extended hands. It's always facing the passengers. So I am doing my best to just hide the face of fear that I have on. And I looked out the window and I asked God, I was just like, God, wonder if I fall out of the sky. And God said to me clear as day, that's my sky. Mic drop. Mic drop. That's how I know it when I hear from God, when I have those mic drop moments. And at that moment I knew at the end of the day, he was in control. And what was I gonna do? Just like he was telling Jeremiah, either pretty much you are going to follow me and trust me, or I'm gonna make you cower before the very people and the very thing that that's intimidating you. So I decided to run with it and said, you know what, I'm not gonna let this defeat me. So after almost a year of being a flight attendant, I stopped being afraid. The fear just, you get used to it. Any type of turbulence, I'm sleeping through it, literally. My second example would be my journey from Texas back to New York. So like I said, became a flight attendant. I was based in Dallas-Fort Worth. It was great, but for really crappy reasons, I had to quit being a flight attendant, and it breaks my heart to this day. But I landed a job as a medical lab scientist, because that's what I got my degree in, clinical lab science, and I was working at Parkland Hospital. But you know, in that time, you know, I was in a relationship, a long distance relationship with someone, and it, you know, wasn't working out, and I was alone. Texas was a different place. I was there all the time now. I wasn't flying in and out, and I became really depressed and lonely. I didn't have any friends, really. There's just one person who befriended me, Chai Tally. She'll always be a friend to me. Great woman. And I honestly have to say that was it. So I was really lonely, really depressed. I was planning on coming back to New York when my lease was up, but that wasn't for, I would say, another, I think, 4 months. So I was kind of in this place of limbo, this gray space, and being sad at the same time. Unfortunately, you know, I was taking Prozac to stop the depression. So it was, and I've never been on any type of drug like that before. So it was really hard to get through at that time. And so my godmother gave me a call, and she basically said, hey, you can take your old apartment back, because the person who I sublet it to and in turn just gave to, she decided not to keep the apartment. So I took that as a sign from God to just come home, because it was just not good for me to be alone. So I packed up, I loaded up my car with everything that I possibly could. And mind you, I just bought the car. I've only been driving for 2 months. So I've had a driver's license for years, but being a New Yorker, you don't really utilize your driver's license. So I would say Texas made a driver out of me. So I've been driving for 2 months, and I told my family I'm coming back. So everyone, of course, is very concerned. I've only been driving for 2 months, but now I'm about to take a trip. I think it's 3,000 miles, or that, I forget, from Texas all the way up to New York City. And you know what? I remember getting in the car. It was in October. I remember getting in the car. It was 5 o'clock in the morning. I said, that's when I'm gonna leave. Turning the car on, and I prayed. I was scared, but I said, you know what? I'm going. I'm gonna go. There's nothing for me here now. It's time to go. And I'm gonna put my faith in the Lord. And I said, God, drive this car for me. Even if I'm not even interpreting this moment correctly, even if I'm making a mistake at this moment, I trust you to at least get me there safely. And it makes me emotional because that trip was it was therapy for me. It was therapy. I mean, I drove by myself from Texas for 16 hours to Georgia. I stopped, of course, to get food, get some Chick-fil-A, things like that. But I learned from facing that fear, I found my inner confidence. I learned more about myself. I was more confident in who I was, and then in turn who God made me. It's almost like when, Peter stepped out into the water. I stepped out into the water and I relied on Jesus to help me walk on that water and be there to pick me up if I fell. And I did it, and I'm just so happy that I did it. So at the time I had my iPhone. No, I had my Samsung Galaxy. Was it? Yeah, my Samsung Galaxy, and I had a white iPod that I found from way back in the day, the one with the hard disk in it. You can actually hear it move around inside. But it had all the best music on it because that's the music that I downloaded from my college computer, from CDs and stuff. Some of y'all don't know about that. But it had so many songs, and I put it on shuffle, and I enjoyed my trip because it was from new stuff to old stuff to just songs I forgot about. But the point is that trip defined or showed me who I was. It was a snippet. It was a preview. This is who you are, Blair. You are not this. You're not this cowardice person. You're not depressed. You are not defeated. You are a strong woman, and you're smart, and you have value in this world. And through me, look what you can do. And so I got back to New York. My dad was at the apartment. And I was greeted by, first, thank God, my dad and a dead rat in the street, and I knew I was home. Of course, I had many more trials to face after I came back from New York. I had to fix my apartment up because she left it a mess. I was sleeping on an air mattress because a lot of my furniture was back in Texas. So there was a transition period for me, which took a lot of courage and it took a lot of strength. But again, it's made me who I am today. So this brings me to the famous faith verse in the Bible, which is Hebrews 11:1. It's now faith is a substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. The substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. So if faith is the substance of hope, so that means hope is made out of faith. So when you have hope, that means you already have the faith. So don't be so hard on yourself because you might have faith and not even know it. If you hope to get a job, you got some faith. All we need is a grain of mustard seed, right? So there's a starting point there. And the most interesting aspect of faith to me is that it is the evidence of things unseen. Now, one would read that and say evidence and unseen, that's kind of a, oxymoron or just something that we don't abide by in this world. Evidence means you can see it. But faith is the evidence of things unseen. And the awesome thing is that evidence is what wins trials in court. So when you have the evidence that something happened, then, or didn't happen, then you win because you have the proof, you have the evidence. So faith wins trials because it's the evidence. So when you have faith, just know that you've already won because you have the evidence. And when I thought of it that way, I was like, ain't it right? Ain't it the truth though? Because so many times in my life, I just started out with faith. And right here in this moment, from that girl who was depressed, mind you, I weaned myself off of the Prozac once I got back to New York. Don't do it. Don't do it. I didn't know that the side effects was suicidal thoughts, and I had that for 2 weeks. But thank God, he was telling me in my head, that's not you. That's your body weaning off the medication. So I'd literally ignore it. I'd ignore it. Like someone else was trying to just be mean to me. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, that thought's not me. 2 weeks and then all of a sudden it stopped. But look at what I came from. I came from fighting my way into the airline, moving out of faith, it not working out, having to get through that disappointment, going through depression, going through the disappointment of a failed relationship, broken heart, driving, finding some sort of therapy, seeing family on my way up. And so it was like this peak and then the valley was so low. But then the faith is what got me through all of it. And if you spoke to me all those years ago, I would not have guessed in a million years that I would be in a place where I'm feeling confident about myself, emotionally, physically on the most part, it's Corona and, that the weight's hard to keep off nowadays. Again, the best way to fight fear in your life is to step out so again, the best way to fight the fear in your life is to really just face it, tell it to go someplace, and plow through with that faith, with that vision you have in your head, with that thought and that's coming from your heart, that drive that you have, that decision that you made in your heart, and you know that you need to consciously go through it, no matter what the opposition is. So I hope that that's giving you some tools to fight this fear that's trying to run around here in these streets, get to us, and I hope it works for you. So thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to my channel. Click the like button if you like the video. There'll be more to come. I have more stories to share. And I hope this message has been encouraging and inspirational. And I hope everyone out there has a really good day.